Oh my goodness, y'all, we're here in a new space. No, nothing has changed on those bookshelves because I haven't asked you what needs to change on those bookshelves. Getting back into what I read from way too long ago, The Veiled Kingdom by Holly Renee. I am not going to lie. I've heard good things about this book, but part of the reason why is I missed her pre-order, but she had a really beautiful cover and it's pink. I do love pink. So you got me. I really enjoyed this book. I was not expecting it to be great. Mostly because I had no idea what was happening going into it. And that's a theme I'm continuing. I'm just not gonna read these descriptions. I'm just gonna go into these books and see what happens, see what everyone's talking about. I loved it. It is fantasy, it is romance. They're not human, they're fae. It kind of gives powerless vibes, but it is not. I was really nervous when I started it that this was going to be powerless vibes. It's not that. So it's fantasy and there are powers and there are no powers, but it's a different kind of situation. The burn is slow, the tension is high, and the dirty talk is on point. She is a princess, Naira, but that's not her actual name. She's introduced as Naira because that's the name she's going by. So that's what I'm going to use for now. And then Dakra, I know she has a list on how I'm supposed to say these names. I don't know what that means. The emphasis. That's great. I write it phonetically. I need those special symbols. But so Naira and Dakra, they are on opposite sides of this situation. She is essentially a prisoner recruit to the rebellion against her father because she's secretly a princess. I know, secret princess. And they have this instant connection, instant chemistry, cannot fight it, must come together. Like I said, the burn is slow. He's training her to be a warrior. It was a lot of fun to read. It ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I'm excited to know that the next book comes out in June. I don't have to wait very long for it because that's always such a letdown when you finish a great book and you can't wait to see what happens next and that's totally gone. Something in their intimacy that I do like. So if you've read Powerless, you're like, I want intimacy, read this. It's great. It's not the same kind of thing. It's not the same struggle. It's not the same situation, but it is fantasy in that kind of it's newer fantasy in that kind of genre. Um sorry, y'all. Dakara, I'm gonna call him D just cuz he really emphasizes Naira using words when they're being intimate and they fool around before they actually have sex and it's a big deal and it's really fun. It's really odd. But she will nod, she'll moan, shake her head, and he encourages words. And I think I'm sure it's pleasurable in some ways, but I appreciate that because you can take for granted. You might not be in control of your body. You might not feel like shaking your head yes. And keeping your partner present enough to communicate with you is important. So all of those check-in moments when she was like, I couldn't just express myself at all. I didn't even know. And he kept pushing for words. I really appreciate it. I kept thinking to myself, good job, you, because it's so easy to just go, well, she didn't say no, but he's making sure that she says yes. So this was The Veiled Kingdom. It's not just a pink cover, y'all. There's a story behind the glitter. And let me know if you've read it because I loved it. She does not disappoint. She doesn't. She doesn't. That time I got drunk and saved a human. I'm putting it up there because y'all, it's backwards. I know it's backwards. You know it's backwards. And you deserve to see this beautiful cover forward facing. Finished the trilogy of Mead Mishaps by Kimberly Lemming. I have loved pretty much everything that she has written in this world. Bump and Boo Hail, my only sadness was I wanted more. I wanted more. This was a really lovely third act book, slightly different from the situations that she's had in her other two. In this world, it's very much fated mates, monster human, as we've come to understand it. And I'm sure in the future, maybe we're going to do human monster, human MMC, and monster FMC. There are some lady monsters happening in this world. I want to see them get it on too. But we have Dante, who is our MMC. He is a dragon, storm dragon. And we have Cherry, our FMC, who is actually the long lost sister of Cinnamon from the first book. So that was really lovely. I I'm excited to see if more books come out. Please, more books. Please, more books. I want to see the reunion. I want to see that happen. If you've read the first book or anything having to do with them, you know that Cherry's disappearance and believed death was a really big turning point for Cinnamon and how she lived her life. So having Cherry there is really exciting and lovely. Um, it is just so funny. She drugs him accidentally. She gives him some psychedelic tea and he accidentally mate bonds her. So part of what they also fight is not just him knowing that they're fated mates, but also the dragon slut magic, as Cherry calls it, which is real if you've read the first book. It's totally real. And she's fighting it because she doesn't get it. And it's, you know, humans don't have fated mates in this. They don't know automatically the way that monsters do or demons do in this world. And so Cherry is fighting this. Now they take a long, this is a slow burn. This is the slowest of burns. Just so slow. And it's okay because in the midst of this burn, they have a lot of really good back and forth. Their relationship is exciting. There's, you know, trauma and stuff that they're both dealing with. Cherry's been locked away by another dragon for 5 years. She's been locked by herself in a tower. Not Rapunzel, but kind of. And she's emerging back into this world that is completely different from the one that she left. Dante is confused and not great at dealing with humans, and so he has to learn how to interact with her. And so they build a relationship with each other that is really lovely to watch. Would I have minded a little more foreplay? No, because she writes it really well. I wanted more of it. But in the end, I thought the story was worth it. So this is probably her least spicy book, but the plot made it worth it in my mind. In my mind. And as I said, I want more. Gwen and Art are not in love was a slow book for me. For me. Y'all might have been able to blast through this book really fast, but I just felt like the plot took a long, long time. There's zero spice. I'm putting that out there right away. And it's a lovely story in that it is people coming to terms with who they are in their relationships and their sexualities. That part is lovely. The friendships are build eventually. And the end really does have a climax and a point and some drama to it. There is drama there. But I felt like it took so long to get there. If this weren't a library book that I would have had to wait a really long time for a second to like finish it again, I probably would not have blasted through this book as quickly as I did because I got bored sometimes. That being said, I'm always tickled when there's a bit of a retelling situation. This is not real historical fiction. It is completely made up. This is no one is real in this world. There's some Camelot innuendos. They're in Camelot. It's from Camelot. History of Arthur, and that is always fun for me to see when there's a play on history, but it didn't add much to the actual story. If you're looking for a sweet, fluffy, reconciling with one's sexuality and you don't mind zero spice, this is a great book for you. If you read The Holiday Trap and you wished it were more YA-ish, this is going to be a great book for you. But I was looking and wanting something more to it. It didn't capture my attention. Y'all, this next book is why you go to local bookstores to get their opinions on things. It is Iced Out by CE Ricci, and I would never have picked up this book except Abby suggested it to me. So thank you, Abby. I am so glad you did. It is an MM by Awakening hockey romance. And y'all, I'm okay with the sports romance. I think the reason for me why hockey works really well is I know nothing about hockey and I can just believe whatever I'm told. So if you tell me that hockey players are superstitious enough that if they have a one night hookup-ish situation with their enemy on the team, and then they break their losing streak with a win the next day, they decide to keep hooking up so they keep winning? I'm gonna believe you because I have nothing else to compare it to. And that is exactly what happens in this book. We've got Oakley and Quentin, Oak and Quinn, and they are enemies, rivals on this team. They don't gel, they are not working together well, their team is losing, and they end up hooking up one night and then they win. And so to keep the streak going, they keep hooking up. And along the way, a beautiful relationship blooms. And that was really fun to watch. Now, it was fun to watch because this book is also a 4.5 chili pepper spicy. It is so spicy, so much spice, so much delicious spice. And I, oh my gosh, I just inhaled it. But it was really fun to watch the two of them break down their own barriers and connect with the other in the midst of this we don't really have to give a fuck situation. I can just kind of be myself or discover who I am as an individual. And oh man, that was fun. Also, they used a lot of lube. I love it. I love lube. I think look, this is really well done and it might be just because they're but I think MF needs to learn from this. Even if you have a vulva, sometimes you need a little extra. No shame in that. It can make everything work a lot better. So the fact that they used it so much, and even in this one instance where they didn't have it, Oak put on the brakes and said, yo, we're not going to do that because we need lube and I'm not willing to sacrifice our enjoyment for, a quickie in the shower. And he was right. He was right. Thank you, sir, for putting your partner's comfort above your horniness. Not easy to do. Yes, thank you. Applause. This book also is an example of a third act breakup that I did not hate. Sorry, spoiler. But in general, I don't love a third act breakup. I feel like they're often used with miscommunication and plot points or decisions that I find really idiotic by characters. This one I believed. I totally understood why the drama of this breakup happened, what caused it, why they reacted the way that they did, and appreciated the growth and the commitment that both of them made to get through it in the end. And it's an exception. And that's where an author can take a trope that I generally dislike and put a spin on it that makes me go, that's how it's supposed to be. I don't want a third act breakup 98% of the time, but I will accept it when done well. And it was. I loved this. This book was after a book that I found really, or kind of in tangent to a book that was really slow and not spicy at all. So every single time I switched over to this book and went, ooh, spice, I was so pleased. I am so happy that I got this recommendation and I was able to read it. I cannot believe my library got me Funny Story as quickly as it did. So thank you, Chicago Public Library. I thought I was going to have to wait a while, but I got it. I'm so happy I did. I refused to buy these last two books of hers because they have come out in hardcover and the first three were in paperback, and I will not break up my set like that. So I'll most likely buy Funny Story when it comes out in paperback. Anyway, I liked it. This is not my favorite Emily Henry book. That still is Book Lovers, but I saw some really interesting things in this book from her that I thoroughly enjoyed. This book, the FMC, Daphne, is a bit more of a hot mess than we've seen from her other FMCs. It's not that she's a funny, quirky. No, she's in the midst of a crazy ass breakup from her fiance. And that insanity leads a lot of urgency and emotional weight to the situation she's in with Miles, our MMC. So, just high level, Daphne and Miles were engaged, dating Peter and Petra, who, on Peter's bachelor party with his best friend Petra, decide that they love each other and break up with Daphne and Miles to be together. Daphne moves in with Miles because Petra moves in with Peter, and they have this weird roommate situation. They'd never really hung out. Peter didn't like Miles. It was a bit of a thing. And so now they're finally getting to know each other and they end up fake dating, which is a trope I always love. I always love a fake dating. It's always going to be a favorite. But they end up fake dating to kind of get back at Peter and Petra for messing with their life. I love a fake dating because usually you end up fake dating with someone that you have real chemistry for, but the situation or the circumstances are not someone that you would normally go for, so you fake date instead. What happens with Daphne and Miles is two people in a terrible situation who bare their souls to each other and form a genuine connection and kindness toward the other human. Yeah, there's a lot of, oh my ex between the both of them. But as they move forward, they enjoy each other. And it's really, really sweet. There were some weird moments, frustrating moments, miscommunication moments that are not always my fave, but I got it. Also, weirdly, this book to me felt way less steamy than her other books and way less descriptive. It wasn't a very fleshed out scene. She added things like clit stimulation that I appreciate in an author. Even like it was like, oh, and then he reached around it. It was odd to me that this felt so much less explicit than some of her other books. Not mad about it. It was just something that I noticed and am curious to see if this is the trend that continues. I mean, not people we meet on vacation. What is this? Beach read. There's a bookshelf scene and a basement scene and in book lovers. There's fool around in the middle of the woods. Like, I don't want to go backwards. I want to see what you're going to bring me next. But in general, for Emily Henry, I think this is a solid mid to upper tier of the books that she's written for me. And if you're someone who likes Emily Henry's writing, I think you'll like this.